My name's Jesse Jones. I'm a PI, or private investigator. Now, I've seen some shit in my 10 years in this business, but this was something else. Let me tell you about the peculiar case of the missing bride. It all started about 2 months ago. There I was, in my grimy little smoky office, drinking away my sorrows as usual, when a man walked in, wearing a dapper blue pinstripe suit and a black chubby. I knew the moment that man walked in that he was trouble. Something about the way he sauntered over to me. People only come to see me when they're far from relaxed. Anyway, he opened the door without knocking and walked over to me and said, "You Mr. Jones, the PI? I really should get a secretary or something to stop people barging in on me." "Who wants to know?" I replied. "The name's Ace Rogers. I heard you're the man for tracking people down." "I can track anyone down, for the right price, of course." I told Ace my price, $25 an hour plus a 12-hour deposit. "Sheesh, you better be worth it," Ace said flippantly. "I get results. If you think they're worth it, then I'm your guy," I responded. "So who's the broad?" "How'd you know?" Ace replied, stunned by my expert deduction. But I told him it was just a hunch. He told me it was his old lady, Lucille. "She's been missing for a week now, but the police ain't helping me." "Is that all the dope you got?" I asked. "What about where she was last seen?" He said he last saw her going at the convenience store on the corner of 9th Avenue and West 52nd Street. I asked him if he saw her go in. "What?" they said, amused. I asked again, slowly, to make sure he understood. "Did you see her go in the store?" This guy was a real piece of work. I couldn't tell if he was covering something up, just a fat head, hell, or even both. "I don't really see how that matters." "Well, it does, so spill the beans." My earlier perplexion was beginning to be solved, but I try not to be rash with my decisions unless I have to. Ace paused for a little bit before saying, "Yeah, I guess so." That would have to do. I wasn't going to get anything useful out of him. I told him I was on the case, and he gave me 300 reasons to stay alive. I finished my drink, put on my trench coat, and walked out the door. It was obvious to me he was hiding something. If I wanted to find out what, I'd have to head to that convenience store, so that's exactly what I did. When I arrived at the store, I was greeted by a short, rotund old man with round eyeglasses. "Why, good afternoon, sir. My name is Buck. How may I be of assistance to you this fine day?" God, I hate that accent. The southern drawl is fine, but the added pretentiousness of trying to sound well-spoken at the same time just... Sorry. I asked him if he knew Ace Rogers. "Ace Rogers? Why, I'm afraid that name doesn't sound familiar to me. However, there's a good chance that he has passed through my fine establishment at some point, if he's local, of course." Then I asked him if he knew Lucille Rogers. I saw that twitch. He knew her. "Once again, I'm afraid not." "You don't sound so sure about that, Buck," I said. "Well, I don't know what to say," he bumbled. He was such a bad liar. It was like he was getting his lines from a poorly written script. "Well, if you say so." He quickly changed the subject. "Anything else I can help you with, sir?" I walked out and said, "No, that's all. I'll tell you for nothing. He's one of the worst liars I've ever met. And in my line of business, that's an achievement. I've met a hell of a lot of liars. I need to sneak into historic night to find the Chinese angle here." I went home for a few hours and had a drink whilst I waited for nightfall. All in Ace's time, of course. As dusk descended on Hell's Kitchen, I set out once again at the convenience store. I got there as the last remnants of light disappeared. Perfect timing. I took a bobby pin out from my pocket and picked the lock with ease. Once inside, I headed for the office I noticed behind the counter earlier. I rummaged around for a bit before searching through the waste paper basket. I uncrumpled all the pieces of paper to find any clues. The last piece I found was a note saying, "The hooch is in the usual place. Bring the note as proof." Well, what do we have here? I said as I put the note in my pocket. Looks like old Buck's been peddling booze without a license. I can really put him behind the 8 ball if I need to. Still no sign of Lucille though. As I turned to leave the office, I noticed a crumpled up piece of paper under the desk. I picked it up and read it. "I'll bring her in Monday. You know what to do." As I read it, I thought to myself, "Oh, Buck, you're in Dutch now." But I also began to fear the worst for the poor dame. After I found that note, I noticed a pile of rags in the corner of the room. I picked up the rags, and underneath were a pair of leather boots, with blood splattered over them. There was no doubt in my mind. Lucille was dead. But things weren't as simple as they seemed. Bucky did it, obviously, but there's no motive here. My expert deduction? Ace is the mastermind behind all of this. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I know. I don't have much solid proof, but I'm always right. It was risky, but I decided to confront Buck and make him sing. The next morning, I paid my friend Joey down at the station a visit and asked him to stick around the store before heading out myself. As I made my way to the store, I couldn't help but to think about that poor dame, Lucille, knowing what had probably happened to her. I opened up the door to the store, and there was Buck counting his money. "Ah, Mr. Detective, sir, I'm afraid I was just closing," he immediately told me. "At 10 a.m.? Going somewhere, Buck?" I retorted. "Well, actually..." "You know why I'm here, Bucky," I interjected. "Where'd you bury the poor gal?" "Bury? Good Lord, what are you talking about?" "I fear you've been smoking too much of that Indian hay," he refuted. "Cut the crap," I shouted, before telling him my theory. Presented as facts, leaving out what I don't know, obviously. "Why, this is absurd. You don't even have any evidence of these heinous accusations," he protested. "If only you stuck to your ground, old man, you could have had me on the ropes." "But I do, and I have evidence of your little bootleg drinkery." He started bumbling, trying to act innocent. "What? Speak easy," he exclaimed. "That's the least of your problems, idiot. Now, if you tell me where Lucille is, I might forget about your hooch peddling." I thought the good cop routine was the best option for the old man. Buck sighed heavily, and then he sang, and it was music to my ears. "Okay, I'll tell you everything. Me and Ace drink out the same bottle. I took him in when he was young and raised him like my own son. We'd do anything for each other. Ace was dizzy with that dame, but it didn't last long. She was a control freak, never let him go anywhere, see anyone. He'd had enough, and her life assurance is worth $8,000. Ace told me he'd give me half if I bumped her off. They were going to Broadway to see Guys and Dolls, and they had to go past here on the way. Ace asked her to come in and buy him a pack of smokes. So I convinced her to come into the house out back and have a cup of joe. As he was telling me all of this, he motioned me to follow him, and he took me into his house. On the way, I motioned for Joey to follow as well. I kept her in here for a week. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Buck pushed open the shut door before I left. As the door creaked open, I saw bloodstains on the carpet, and when the door was fully opened, I was greeted by my worst fears. Lucille's lifeless corpse. Jesus Christ! I exclaimed. I was gonna let her go, but she attacked me yesterday, and I was left with no choice, so I slashed her throat. I had lots of questions, most prominently, why did Ace hire me to find her? At this point, though, I just wanted to get the hell out of Dodge and get these two psychopaths locked away, so I didn't bother asking. Joey, did you get all that? I sure did, Jesse. Great job, pal. Joey slapped a pair of handcuffs on Buck and escorted him out of the house and into the back of his motor vehicle. I immediately went home to a much-needed bottle of bourbon to see if I could drink the image of Lucille's corpse out of my mind. The next day, Joey came around to tell me that they locked up Ace as well, and said, "This is from the chief, for all the hard work you put into this case. Who knows whether we would have caught those freaks without you." Thanks, Joey. I just wish we could have caught them before the poor gal was killed. Now, excuse me. I've got to try and drink that image out of my head. I motioned towards the door. Joey shook my hand and left. It's been 2 months and enough liquor to kill a horse since then, but I still can't get the image out of my brain. It's like it's burned into my retinas. I thought writing about it and telling people my story might help me, but all it's done is made me realize that I need to retire from this shit show of a profession. I'll never get that image out of my head. I'll never be a PI again. What? You expecting a happy ending? Not in Hell's Kitchen.
That you promised with your eyes, I see yours too. Now your eyes are red from crying. Almost you, almost me, almost.